Hi guys, welcome to Mark Anthony's Music Picks episode 41. Today's concept is going to be DeepChord, a very often requested producer that a lot of my listeners have asked that I talk about. When I was first presented with this idea, I was like, well, that's easy because DeepChord is probably my single favorite producer of all time. But as I started to look through my shelves and my catalog, I'm like, they're all good. How can I possibly narrow this down? So I recently this weekend came up with the idea of doing DeepChord remixes as the focus of the episode instead of his original productions, because I think for the original productions there's just so much awesome material to work with that it's casting too big of a net. But if I narrow that down to just Modell and DeepChord remixes, there I have something that I'm going to work with. So today I've picked out 8 titles for you guys that I think are the ultimate DeepChord remixes that you need if you want to have like a perfect DeepChord remix collection. The first title, actually, you know what, before I start going into the titles, I want to talk a little bit about the history of DeepChord. So DeepChord originally started out as Mike Schamer and Rod Modell. In 2002, Mike left the group and Rod continued on his own. Sometime in the mid-2000s, Rod paired up with Stephen Hitchell, and that became Echo Space, and I believe also CV313. At some point around, I want to say 2010, Rod started pairing off. Although he was still doing projects with Stephen Hitchell, he started pairing off on his own and doing his own productions. Like Hash Bar Loops album came out, and he also started doing his own remixes on different labels like Echo Chord and such. At that point, that's where I really feel like his sound came into its own and where it really hit the sweet spot for me and just he became this like perfect producer for me. There's just something about like the bass and the elements and this kind of like muddiness that he puts into his dub techno productions that makes them sound so much different than your normal run-of-the-mill vanilla type dub techno. Rod's got his own thing going on and he's got it down to a science. So I just can't say how much he's influenced me. He's taken up so much space on my shelves. I pretty much buy everything that DeepChord releases. I would say 9 out of 10 times if I see it, I'm pulling the trigger on it. So let's get into the titles. I'm first gonna show you the Who's Afraid of Detroit remix. This is from 2008 and it's on Echo Space. So Claude Von Stroke did Who's Afraid of Detroit in 2006 and it was kind of like a Winter Music Conference hit. A little bit tacky. It had that bleep bloop melody going on that was like pretty hooky and catchy, I suppose, I guess. And here Rod did a remix of it, and you might be thinking, is there anything in common with this and the original? And the answer is yes. There's actually a slight trace of the original melody that's in here, and otherwise it's just a really cool, sick-ass DeepChord track that Rod made. It's got like some techie percussion going on. Like I said, the blooped melody has a little bit of effects and such put on it, and it just turned out to be a really great record. On the B-side, you also get a Stephen Hitchell remix under his Soultech alias. Soultech is where he was making like kind of like more club-oriented music, and this is also great. I wrote a review for the Soultech remix if you want to go check that out on Discogs. But between the A and the B, this is definitely a really good value. Next one I'm going to show you guys is a little bit more recent. This is from Sebastian San, and the track is called Darker Shades. And the one that I like the most on here is the DeepChord Fog Mix. It's, as far as DeepChord productions go, this is pretty much like the standard straight down the middle approach that Rod will take with a track. That being said, it still turned out great. I don't want that to come off as derogatory towards the track in any way, but this will sort of remind you of the Echo Space The Coldest Seasons album. It has that sort of the hiss going on in the background and some really cool bass elements going on, like a really creative bass line, and it's really smooth. I would say this is a good DeepChord starter remix for you. I also want to acknowledge the fact that the original Darker Shades on the B2 by Sebastian San is an excellent track that I would be more than happy to put into one of my dub techno mixes, or a techno mix for that matter. And also the DeepChord Majestic mix on the A1 is also a winner. So bang for your buck value. This is where it's at. This is great. Another one that Rob did is on Echo Chord. This is Echo Chord, I'm sorry, the artist is Fluxion, and the label is Echo Chord, and the remix is, there's two DeepChord remixes on the backside. There's the B1 and the B2. The B1 is kind of like, in regards to the Sebastian San, not totally distinct from the rest of Rod's catalog, but also a very quality, start to finish, awesome DeepChord track. So if you want, like, again, another representation of what DeepChord sounds like, for the most part, the B1 handles that. Rod went a little bit deeper and harder on the B2 with a little bit heavier of a kick drum, almost like one of those Berghain kick drums that Marcel Detman or somebody like that would be dropping, where it has like that big kick and a little bit of like extra boom and reverb on it. I also want to point out that the Joey Anderson remix that's also featured on here is, I think, one of the greatest tracks that Joey Anderson ever made. Joey Anderson makes very abstract, wonky house, like super trippy and very analog-y sounding. Like, sounds like he has lots of gear and he's always turning knobs or something like that. But that makes this, all three tracks on here are great, another winner, and I highly recommend this. Next one I want to review for you guys is this here. This is No Spectacle. This came out on Detroit Threads, some obscure Detroit label. I don't really know anything about them. And if you look here on the backside, the reason that this record is obscure, in my opinion, is because if you look at that, the track in A2 is labeled as unknown artist. It's not labeled as DeepChord, but it is definitely a DeepChord production. You can tell 100% by listening to it. When you search Juno and you search the other major shops and you try to find this record, you won't find it by typing in DeepChord. So for that fact alone, this sort of fell through the cracks. The only way that I discovered this was by sifting through DeepChord's remix section on Discogs a few years ago, and I was like, how did I miss that? I always, I search for DeepChord periodically just because I'm kind of crazy about the guy. So every 2 or 3 months, I'll just plug it into the Juno box and make sure I didn't miss anything. And it turned out that I did miss this, and it's excellent. It's a little 5-minute jam, but in my opinion, you could have made this 15 minutes because it's such a good loop. It's a little bit more on the techier, clubby side of the spectrum that Rod is capable of doing, and I think it's totally awesome. this almost makes me want to make a DeepChord set and have it like kind of center around this track because I just think it's great. Next one I'm going to talk about is another Fluxion record, and I'm going to shift this around in the sleeve for you guys just so you can kind of see the label a little bit. But this is Fluxion remixed by, actually it's not titled as DeepChord, it's credited as Rod Modell, but Rod Modell and DeepChord are the same thing, like I said, after 2002. So anyways, the track that I love on here is the Solar Constants remix, and I'm sorry, it's the Solar Constant remix of Waves, which is on the B1. Now I'm gonna give you guys a link to go and watch the full version of Waves. I'll give you a sample too, but I want you to watch the full version of Waves because somebody made a really good video for it. It has these blue kind of like tendrils cascading down, like almost like Northern Lights, or yeah, I guess Northern Lights would be the best term for it. And there's also other like graphical representations of objects swimming and such, and it's like super well done video. And it was almost like the video fit this track so well that it got me hooked on it. Like I said, 2010 this came out. This is when Rod really turned the corner and started getting more into the clubbier direction of things, which has brought him like right into my wheelhouse. Like the 2007 DeepChord where he was doing Vantage Isle and Grand Bend is a little bit too straightforward for me, but this is where it started to get clubby and a little bit more aggressive and more of making you want to dance instead of just zone out, which is, I think, what makes this critical. This was a turning point record right here. Three more to go, guys. Next up is Shocking Pinks. This one doesn't seem to get a lot of love on Discogs. I don't even know who the Shocking Pinks are, I'm gonna be honest with you. But it comes with an Echo Space and a DeepChord remix on the second vinyl. I've used the Echo Space to open sets before, and it's really soft and nice. I like that, but because this is a DeepChord episode, I'm just going to talk about the DeepChord one. It's got kind of a tribally percussion, so right there I'm hooked. It's got a really nice soft vocal, probably one of the softest vocals that I've ever heard Rob like keep in a track. And because of that, it's very colorful. You can almost picture this track as being like pink or white or something very like positive, maybe like a baby blue. It's just an awesome record, and this is cheap. This is cheap, and because you're getting an Echo Space and a DeepChord on it, I just think, even though it's a double pack, just go ahead and grab it, guys. It's awesome. Next up, I believe we're around 2016, maybe 2017 this came out. This is on Mosaic. So Mike Schamer started producing again around 2016 or 2017. He stopped producing for a while after he left DeepChord, and then shortly, in the most recent years, he started producing again. And this is Submerged. It's on the label Mosaic, which always has really nice sleeves, like really nice gloss sleeves. And the vinyl for this is really nice. Mosaic plates are always real fat, really nice cuts. And you don't see people complaining about crackle or hiss or anything like that if you go and read them on Discogs. And it's kind of cool. There's different kind of like bands in the record where the needle passes through it normally. So these aren't breaks in the track. These are just places where they just cut and move the spiral in a little bit further just to give it a cool look. But I love this record, and the DeepChord remix on the back, it has this really subdued kind of bubbly bass effect that I can't even tell. I know it sounds awesome, but I would have no idea how it was made. And it also has this really cool panning effect. If you listen to the washes in your headphones, they'll shift back and forth, left to right with the stereo effect, which is really cool because you know a lot of the people that are listening to this kind of stuff are in the zone to begin with. So anything that the producers do to kind of like provoke that even more, I think is awesome. I always just got a kick out of that. All right, the last record that I want to show you guys today is probably the most club-oriented out of the entire batch. This is Hatikva, if I'm pronouncing that right, which is, I believe, a German duo, and they're known for kind of making tech house with kind of weirdo, wonky vocals. And Rod came in and did his kinematic mix on the B1, and I just love it. I pitched this all the way down to -6 when I play this. And if I had to describe the sound, it would be as if a painter took a blob of paint and squeezed it out on their finger and just kind of like smeared it all over a canvas, because all the sounds are kind of like stretched out and smeared out and kind of like abstract, but it also has this heaviness to it that gives it like serious like dance floor credibility. So check out this, and like I said, I would say try to pitch this down. I don't think it sounds right at 0, but at -6, it's perfect for me. That's all I have for today, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this compilation that I've tried to assemble for you. Rod, thank you so much for all the awesome tunes. You're, like I said, my favorite producer of all time, and I can't wait to hear more from you. Take care, guys. Peace.